Hi everyone, I am from the Faculty of Foreign International Relations and Law, İlahə Sadiqova. Our subject is analysis of foreign policy. Today I will speak you about the concept of foreign policy and its type. Let's begin. As you know, foreign policy, also known as external policy, is the set of strategies and actions a state employs in its interactions with other states, unions, and international entities. It encompasses a wide range of objectives, including defense and security, economic benefits, and humanitarian assistance. The formulation of foreign policy is influenced by various factors such as domestic consideration, the behavior of other states, and geopolitical strategies. From this picture, I will explain to you about the determinants of foreign policy. As you see, there are a lot of determinants of foreign policy which play a crucial role to building the foreign policy. Such as we will speak about the crisis and immediate events, and also the international law and institutions which play a crucial role for building the foreign policy. Then we must speak about the technological advancement. As you know, today modern technological advancement are very improved, and it's also play a crucial role for the building of foreign policy. Then it's the main the quality of diplomacy, political leadership, ideology, economic resources, history, population, geographical location, and others such is very important as the determinants of foreign policy. Such as if we speak to improve their foreign policy, the countries must know their history very well. Also the history of the countries which they want to relate it with them. Then we must speak about the objectives of foreign policy are diverse and interconnected, contributing to a comprehensive approach for each state. Defense and security are often primary goals, with states forming military alliances and employing soft power to combat threats. Economic interests, including trade agreements and foreign aid, are central to a country's role in the global economy. Additionally, many states have developed humanitarian programs based on the responsibility to protect, supporting less powerful countries through various forms of assistance. The study of foreign policy examines the reason and the methods behind state interactions with think tanks and academic institutions, providing research and analysis to inform policy decisions. About the idea of long-term management of relationship followed the development of professional diplomatic corps that managed diplomacy. In the 18th century, due to extreme turbulence in European diplomacy and ongoing conflicts, the practice of diplomacy was often fragmented to the necessity to deal with isolated issues termed affairs. Therefore, while domestic management of such issues was termed civil affairs, the term foreign affairs was applied to the management of temporary issues outside the sovereign realm. This term remained in widespread use in the English-speaking states into the 20th century and remains the name of departments in several states that manage foreign relations. Although originally intended to describe short-term management to a specific concern, these departments now manage all day-to-day and long-term international relations among states. Think tanks are occasionally employed by government foreign relations organizations to provide research and advocacy in the development of foreign policy proposals, alternatives to existing policy, or to provide analytical assessment of evolving relationship. Several objectives may motivate a government's foreign policy. Foreign policy may be directed for defense and security, for economic benefit or to provide assistance to states that need it. All foreign policy objectives are interconnected and contribute to a single comprehensive foreign policy for each state. Unlike domestic policy, foreign policy issues often arise suddenly in response to developments and major events in foreign countries. Foreign policy is often directed for the purpose of ensuring national security. Governments forming military alliances with foreign states in order to deter and show stronger resistance to attack. Foreign policy also focuses on combating adversarial states through soft power, international isolation, or war. As you know, foreign policy is very important for improving countries' or governments' economy and international trade. From this picture, you saw the international trading environment, such as political legal environment, economic environment, technological environment, and the cultural environment. And the importance, if we speak about the importance of international trade, is the boost economic development, increases competitiveness, export diversification, promotes innovation, expansion of business opportunities, widened customer choice, and quality improvement. As you know, there are two types of power in the world, such as we say superpowers and small powers. And superpowers every time played crucial role for building foreign policy, also can influence to other countries, other foreign policies of other countries, also their agreements and another. Because they are able to project power and exercise their influence across the world, while great powers and middle powers have moderate influence in global affairs. But if we speak about the small powers have less ability to exercise influence unilaterally, as they have fewer economic and military resources to leverage. As a result, they are more likely to support international and multilateral organizations. The diplomatic bureaucracies of small states are also smaller, which limits their capacity to engage in complex diplomacy. Smaller states may seek to ally themselves with other countries for economic and defensive benefits, or they may avoid involvement in international disputes as to remain to friendly terms with all countries. In this picture, you saw a world map is different within different years. In the first map, as you saw, its map described the British Empire within the 1920 until around 1920. The world was unipolar, with the British Empire being the only superpower. And but from 1945 to 1909, as you saw, the USA and Soviet Union dominated during the Cold War and creating the bipolar world. And since 1909, the USA dominated in the world and has been the most influential and dominant power, returning to a unipolar world. But through these times, those powers who may not have been considered the world's most dominant powers still remained it as very influential major powers. It's thought that the superpower geographies of the future will be much more fragmented and complex than those of the past. Then we must speak about the political institutions and forms of government play a role in a country's foreign policy. In a democracy, public opinion and the methods of political representation both affect a country's foreign policy. Democratic countries are also believed to be less likely to resort to a military conflict with one another. And autocratic states are less likely to use legalism in their foreign policies. Under a dictatorship, a state's foreign policy may depend heavily on the preferences of their dictators. Dictators that interfere significantly with their foreign policy apparatus may be less predictable and more likely to make foreign policy blunders. As I say, there are different types of foreign policy which came from goals and interests of the countries. As you know, there are different goals and interests of the countries. It may be different in the superpowers and also different in the small powers. And foreign policy specialists must also understand the tools available to them. First, we must speak about the imperialism, which the practice or advocacy of expanding power through either traditional annexation or through gaining political and economic control of other areas. Imperialism has been widely deemed reprehensible and contrary to the rules-based international order. However, imperial states often use propaganda to discredit adversaries and their foreign policies. Then we can speak about diplomacy. Diplomacy is the practice of peacefully negotiating with other nations. And while the broad definition of diplomacy applies to political, commercial, and cultural relationships, modern use of the term has become synonymous with any official acts of foreign ministries other than war. This can take the form of negotiating treaties and making official declarations and pressing the government's views on an issue. Though war is often viewed as the result of diplomatic failure, diplomats are still crucial for escalating the conflict, and they have many explanation about is in the history. We can speak about the General George Marshall, then Eisenhower, who were the examples of the leaders who have held both roles. Then the third type of foreign policy is isolationism, and what's the main? It's the main about the avoiding wars and conflicts between other nations. Although isolationism advocates for neutrality, these are distinct models. Oppose any commitments to other countries, including treaties and trade agreements, believe it can instead be wholly self-reliant. And in a global economy, many states have left the concept of isolationism in the past. Then, if we speak about the collective security, groups of countries work together for their interests. If their interests or their goals are together, they can work both together for their improving their foreign policy. And today, there are different collective security examples that we can say about the both of League of Nations and the United Nations outlined aspirations of collective security in their Covenant and Chapter respectively, but neither have been able to reliably prevent conflict. The organization that became synonymous with collective security is, of course, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and as we call them NATO. To quote the organization itself, the principle of collective defense is at the very heart of the NATO's and the national North Atlantic Treaty Organizations and the founding of the treaty. That's all, students. See you later.